known as the floating paradises of Earth. But have you ever thought why these massive pieces of land surrounded nothing but water don't sink? It seems logical that one day these floating paradises could just disappear into the deep. But why does that never happen? Are they connected to Earth, or are they floating like an iceberg? What is the science behind this? What is a floating island actually? Let's understand the whole thing together. Greenland and Sri Lanka are some of the largest island countries in the world. That means the whole country is on an island, but their island types are different. So the reason for the stability is different, and it is helpful to understand its types and formation for better understanding our topic, why islands don't sink actually. There are many types of islands, but can be categorized mainly in 4 types: volcanic islands, continental islands, coral islands, and then we have floating islands. Here, interesting fact is that world's 99% of islands can be categorized in the first 3 types of islands. Volcanic islands like Hawaii, they emerge when magma from beneath the Earth's crust forces its way to the surface. This builds the island upward from the ocean floor. As long as volcanic activity continues, these islands keep growing. You may be shocked to know that Hawaii Island is still growing due to some active volcanoes known as Mauna Loa and Kilauea. In the last 20 years, lava flows added 220 hectares to the Hawaii Island. Science behind the floating islands is the interesting one, so wait a little bit. Now we have continental islands like the Greenland. Greenland is the largest island in the world. Once this was asked in my examination, but at that time, I don't know the answer, so I missed that. As the name suggests, continental islands were once the part of the continent, but during the span of millions of the years, they separated. United Kingdom is also a continental island because it was once connected to the mainland of Europe before being separated by rising sea levels. Now we have coral islands. These are landforms that are created by accumulation of coral and other marine life. These islands are typically found in tropical and subtropical oceans and are formed through a process involving coral reefs. Now we have floating islands. Why this is called floating island and not the other 3? Because all the other 3 islands are somehow connected to the Earth's crust. Most of them are actually the visible tops of underwater mountains, known as seamounts, that rise from the ocean floor. Any island that you remember is probably not floating, like Greenland, Iceland, Hawaii, Bali, etc. Beneath the surface, it extends deep into the Earth's crust. But there are floating islands also, but they are merely 1% of total, so no one talks about them. And their mystery and science also bother even scientists and researchers. But they have given some theories too, why they are floating like a ship or an iceberg. An article in 1908 edition of the Washington Post reports that a U.S. cruiser in Caribbean encountered an island which they soon discovered was floating. This was certainly one of the largest floating islands ever seen at sea. The paper reported it proved to be a little island about 3/4 of a mile long and 1/4 mile wide. In shape, it was long and narrow, with a thick growth of vines and bushes with 3 tall coconut trees grew in the middle of it. No life of any kind was on the island. After gathering the coconuts, the sailors returned to the cruiser. Scientists have researched a lot, but can't confirm their theories. They give 2 theories. One is buoyancy, and the other is the nature of material. At the core, these islands floats due to combination of these 2 things, which is the same reason a boat or a wooden log or a ship can float on water. Buoyancy is a kind of force exerted by water on an object. Water has a certain density, and if an object is less denser than the water, it will float. Now the second is the nature of material. In floating islands, materials like reeds, soil, and organic plant matter traps a lot of air in it. Air is much less denser than water, so these islands act like a sponge, keeping them afloat. But these floating islands are not stable at all. Any moment a big wave can drown them in the big sea. India is a famous country for their floating islands. If you're ever interested in floating islands, you can visit there. There are many floating islands on Loktak Lake in Manipur state of India.